looking everywhere, that's how the story goes.
What if the last voice of humanity wasn't trying to survive, but trying to evolve? Welcome to the Zombie Story Zone, where survival meets suspense and the undead whisper secrets in the dark. In this chilling horror thriller, we follow the final days of Evan Blackwood, a lone survivor hiding in a rotting world. After stumbling upon an abandoned farmhouse and a mysterious journal, Evan begins to record his terrifying journey until everything he believes about the undead is shattered. Zombies aren't mindless, they're organized. And they're listening to her. A strange woman appears, warning him of a greater threat, the Queen. She walks among the dead, cloaked in red with eyes that burn like gold. The infected worship her. And now, she's calling out to Evan. As the journal unfolds, secrets are revealed, shadows move with purpose, and the apocalypse becomes more than just survival. It becomes a game of control, corruption, and a terrifying transformation. But here's the real twist. What if Evan doesn't want to escape? What if he's chosen to lead them? Don't miss this gripping, blood-chilling tale packed with mystery, suspense, and a mind-bending ending that will haunt you long after the last page. Subscribe now and dive into the darkness, because sometimes the dead aren't the ones to fear.
The Zombie Story Zone, where the tales of the undead widely known. Join the hunt, uncover the fight in the Zombie Story Zone. We'll survive the night.
Day 245 after the fall. I don't even know why I'm still counting. Maybe it helps me stay human. Maybe it's just madness scratching at the walls of my mind. My name is Evan Blackwood, and I'm one of the few left breathing. The world died slowly, then all at once. Cities fell, people turned. The screams never really stopped. They just became echoes. Now silence is worse than noise. It means something is watching, or waiting. Yesterday, I found this old farmhouse buried deep in the woods. Broken roof, cracked windows, vines crawling up the walls like they were trying to pull it back underground. Still, it felt safer than the road. Inside, I found a body slumped in a rocking chair. The man had no face left, just blood, bone, and something that looked like sorrow. I buried him under the oak tree. He wore a wedding ring. Maybe he died waiting for someone who never made it back. I found this journal in a drawer near him. Thought I'd write. Maybe it's for whoever finds me next. Maybe it's just to keep the silence away, but that night, at midnight, I heard it. A knock at the door. Not a bang, not scratching. A calm, steady knock. 3 times. Zombies don't knock. I didn't move. Just sat in the corner gripping my axe, heart pounding so loud I thought it might give me away. The knock never came again. But the footsteps outside, they stayed for hours. Slow, careful, human. In the morning, I checked the porch. There were footprints in the mud. Not clawed, not dragged, human. I'm not alone out here, but I'm not sure if that makes me feel safer or more afraid. Day 246. I didn't sleep after the knocking. Every creak in the wood, every groan of the wind made me grip my axe tighter. Morning didn't bring peace, only light. And light doesn't scare away what walks this world anymore. I needed supplies, and I needed answers. So I headed toward the outskirts of Ravenhill, the nearest town now drowned in ash and rust. On the way, deep in the woods, I found something strange. A small campsite, still warm. The ashes in the fire pit were fresh. The pot over it was blackened, and a sleeping bag was torn open like someone had left in a hurry or had been pulled away. There was blood on a log. Not a lot, just enough to make me pause. And then I saw it. A notebook, soaked from the morning dew, lying half buried in the dirt. One page had writing. Just 7 words. She watches. She waits. She remembers. The letters were shaky, desperate, scratched into the page like the writer was out of time. A chill slid down my spine. I pocketed the note. Something about the word she stuck with me. Was it just paranoia? Or something worse? I moved on. Ravenhill was worse than I remembered. Buildings half-eaten by fire, cars rotting in the street, and silence. Then they came. 3 of them. Zombies, limping from an alley, their eyes clouded, jaws twitching. I swung my axe, caught one in the neck, but the others were faster than I expected. I slipped, fell, and for a moment I thought that was it. And then she appeared. A woman. Leather jacket. Black hair tied back. Eyes sharp as blades. She moved like she wasn't afraid to die. Her machete sliced through the undead like butter. She didn't speak. Just held out her hand and pulled me up. We ran back to the farmhouse. I didn't know her name. I didn't know if I could trust her. But I was alive, and something told me. She did know who she was. Day 248. She finally told me her name. Mera. She sat by the fire, sharpening her machete without saying a word for hours. She was calm, too calm, like someone who had already accepted death or something worse. I offered her food. She didn't take it. Just said, "Don't eat after dark. That's when they move." It wasn't just survival talk. She said it like a warning. I asked where she came from. She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled out a map, worn and dirty, marked with red circles and scribbled symbols. "These are hives," she said. "Hives?" She nodded. "Zombies don't wander. They group. They gather like insects. Something is guiding them." I told her that wasn't possible, that they were mindless, rotting things, just hungry. She looked at me with those icy eyes and said, "Then why do they guard empty places? Why do they move in patterns?" I didn't have an answer. That night, I woke to hear her whispering again. She stood near the window, staring into the woods. I sat up quietly, tried to listen. Her voice was soft, almost like she was talking to herself, or praying. "She's close now. She sings. Can't you hear it?" That word again. She. I didn't interrupt her, just watched as her shoulders tensed and her hand gripped her weapon tighter. Whatever Mera knew, it scared her more than the Walking Dead. Later, when I asked about the singing, she only said one thing. The infected hear her, and some of us dream of her. I haven't dreamed in weeks, only nightmares. But suddenly, I wasn't so sure. If zombies could hear something we couldn't, then maybe we weren't alone in this war. Maybe we were just being hunted. The morning mist was thick, curling around the trees like silent ghosts. Evan followed Mera deeper into the forest, each step weighted with the lingering dread of her warning. She moved fast, silent, confident, as though the trees whispered directions only she could hear. They reached a clearing that didn't feel natural. The trees here bent outward, as if repelled by whatever lived at the center. The grass was gray, damp, and brittle, and in the middle of the clearing was a spiral made entirely of human bones. Femurs, ribs, skulls, dozens of them, arranged with eerie precision. A stone altar sat at the center, half buried under rotting leaves. On top of it lay a small wooden box bound in leather straps. Mera froze at the edge. "She made this," she whispered. "This is where they bring the offerings." Evan stared, horrified. "Offerings to who?" Mera looked at him, her eyes darker than usual. "To her. To the queen." Evan stepped forward slowly. The spiral of bones seemed to pulse under his boots. He knelt before the box, heart hammering. Carefully, he undid the straps and opened it. Inside was a shriveled human tongue, blackened and wrapped in parchment. Evan pulled the paper free and read the smeared message. "Shh. She speaks through those who taste her blood." The forest fell silent. No birds, no wind, just the pounding of Evan's heart. Suddenly, the spiral of bones shifted. Something unseen moved around them, fast, heavy, and circling. Mera raised her machete. "We're not alone." Evan pocketed the message and backed away. His eyes met Mira's, wide, terrified, and unspokenly sure of what was coming. Then the sound came again, that low, humming song. Soft, feminine, like a lullaby made of ash. Evan turned, and in the distance, just beyond the trees, he saw her. The queen, bathed in soft red light. Tall, elegant, impossibly beautiful. Glowing golden eyes, silver hair drifting like smoke, a flowing red gown that clung to her toned, curvy body, the neckline plunging deep over her pale chest. She didn't move. She only watched and smiled. Then she was gone. Evan blinked. The clearing was empty again, but something had changed. She'd seen him, and she would not forget. We went to the ridge overlooking an old industrial yard. Mera said it was one of the larger hives, a place where the infected gathered regularly. At first, it looked empty, quiet, but as night fell, they came. Dozens, then hundreds. Shuffling in from the woods and broken roads, silent, unified. They didn't groan or scream like the stories said, they just stood in rows, like soldiers waiting for a command. And then, the air changed. A deep, unnatural silence spread across the yard. Even the wind stopped moving. That's when she stepped out from the shadows. The queen. She didn't crawl or limp like the others. She walked, tall and graceful, like royalty crossing a ballroom floor. Her skin was pale, smooth, almost glass-like. Her long silver hair shimmered in the moonlight. She wore a tattered red dress that seemed to flow even though there was no breeze. And her eyes, they glowed golden yellow like lanterns in the dark. The zombies bowed. Not one. All of them. Heads lowered, bodies still. "She's not dead," I whispered. "She's not even infected." Mera didn't answer. She just stared, wide-eyed, her knuckles white around her machete. Then, the queen turned her head and looked straight at us. Even from that distance, I felt it, like a hand reaching into my chest and squeezing my heart. She smiled. Not a kind smile, a predator's grin. My vision blurred, my ears rang. And then, she sang. There was no sound, but I felt it in my skull, an invisible hum that made the ground tremble and the air burn. Mera grabbed my arm and dragged me back. "She saw you. She marked you." We didn't stop running until we were miles away. I asked Mera what she saw in the queen's eyes. She said only this: "She's not leading the dead, Evan. She's replacing the living." Day 254. We didn't speak much after what happened at the yard. Mera was jumpy. She kept checking the windows, double locking the doors. Her calm edge was cracking, and that scared me more than the queen's stare. At dawn, we left the farmhouse. She led me to an old, hidden military bunker, buried beneath the ruins of a forgotten outpost. The steel door was rusted but thick. Safe. Silent. Inside were broken monitors, flickering lights, and faded warning signs. One room still had electricity, powered by a barely functioning generator. Mera sat me down and finally told me the truth. She hadn't just survived the outbreak, she was part of it. "I was military," she said. "Project Lucid. We were tasked with ending death." She showed me a folder she had hidden in a steel case. Inside were black and white photos, medical charts, and one name repeated again and again. Subject 0, Alara. "We thought we could control it," Mera continued. "Reanimate the dead, use them. A perfect army, but Alara, she changed." According to Mera, Alara wasn't just brought back. She evolved. She began speaking in dreams, infecting minds before bodies. The virus didn't just rot flesh, it rewrote it. "She became something else," Mera whispered. "Something beyond human." That was when everything collapsed. The outbreak wasn't an accident. It was an escape. Subject 0 didn't want to be caged anymore. She wanted to rule. "She's not a mutation," Mera said. "She's a queen, designed by us, set free by her own will." I asked why she hadn't told anyone before. She looked at me with tired eyes. "Because no one who saw her lived long enough to tell." I stared at the folder, at Alara's face, young, human, beautiful once. Now she wears the red dress of death, and I realized something terrible. She knows Mera's name, and now she knows mine. Day 256. We were ambushed on the way back from the bunker. A small group, 5, maybe 6 of them, crawling from beneath a collapsed gas station. Mera reacted fast, her machete flashing in wide arcs, screaming for me to run. I didn't. I fought beside her. We made it out alive. But Mera didn't. Not really. In the chaos, one of them got close, too close. She killed it, but not before its teeth sank into her arm. She didn't cry out, didn't panic. She just looked at me and said, "It's shallow, I'll be fine." But I knew the truth. By the time we got back to the farmhouse, she was sweating, pale, trembling. She sat against the wall, clutching her side, breathing hard. "I have maybe a day," she whispered. I told her there had to be a way. A cure. Anything. She shook her head. Then she pulled a small glass vial from her jacket, filled with thick black liquid. "This is the last of it," she said. "A prototype, not a cure, but it will show you what I've seen, what she really is." She handed it to me, along with her machete. "Don't let me turn, Evan. Promise me. Don't let her take me." I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. That night, she got worse. Her hands twitched. Her voice slipped between human and something other. At dawn, she was gone, her body cold. But her eyes still moved. I kept my promise. I buried her beside the man with no face. Now I sit alone, her machete beside me, and the vial in my hand. The question echoes in my mind. If I drink it, what will I become? The queen is calling me now, and I'm not sure if I want to resist anymore. 5th day, I drank the vial. I don't know why. Maybe because Mera wanted me to. Maybe because I had nothing left to lose. Maybe because part of me already belonged to her. The liquid burned down my throat like fire and ash. I thought I'd die. Instead, I slept. And in that sleep, I dreamed. But it wasn't a dream. It felt too real. Like I had been pulled through the fabric of the world and placed into another, one built from bone and shadow. I stood in a massive, underground city, pulsing with a sick, golden light. The walls were made of flesh and skulls, all connected by black, webbed veins. The air hummed with whispers, not voices, but thoughts, blending into one chorus. And at the center, on a throne of writhing, silent bodies, she sat, the queen. Her eyes locked onto mine. She was no longer just a vision of death. She was something ancient, eternal. Her voice didn't speak to my ears, but inside my mind. "You see now," she whispered. "The old world failed. Let it rot. You were never meant to survive it. You were meant to become something greater." She raised one pale hand and I felt it. A pull, not on my body, but my soul. A thread unraveling. And I didn't resist. When I woke up, I was back in the farmhouse. But something was different. I could hear things. The song. Low. Rhythmic. Faint, but always there. A hum in my blood. A pattern in the wind. The infected weren't just wandering. They were moving. Spreading. I knew where they would go next. I understood their path. And I realized something horrifying. The queen hadn't given me a vision. She had given me instructions. Day 262. Something in me has changed. I see the world differently now. Not with fear, but with clarity. I walked for hours today, drawn by something deeper than instinct. I didn't bring food. I didn't need it. I didn't feel hunger, just purpose. The map Mera gave me, her hand-drawn red circles, the places she called hives, I finally understand what they are. Not nests, not feeding grounds, construction sites. The infected aren't destroying the world, they're rebuilding it. Beneath a crumbling city on the edge of the valley, I found what I think was once a subway station. The tunnels had caved in, but a strange path of bones led downward, far into the earth. I followed. The queen was waiting. Not just a hallucination this time. She stood in the center of a vast cavern, her red dress rippling like blood in water. The glow from her eyes lit the walls, revealing symbols, patterns that looked ancient like they came from before language. I fell to my knees, not out of fear, out of recognition. She stepped forward, her voice pressed into my mind like silk over steel. "You see clearly now. You know this world is done. The virus was the cure. Humanity was the sickness." I didn't argue. I didn't run. I asked her one question. "Why me?" She smiled, and it was almost kind. "Because you chose to see, and because you are ready to become." She reached for me, and I didn't pull away. Tomorrow, I will return, not as a survivor, but as something more. Day 265, final entry. If you're reading this, you've found my journal. You think you've found the words of a man holding on to hope. You haven't. You've found the last will of a dying species. I walked back into the Queen's hive yesterday, not as prey, but as her voice. I feel her in my thoughts now. Her memories, her pain, her purpose. I see flashes of her past life. Alara, they once called her. A test subject. A woman broken by science, reshaped by death, and reborn by will. She didn't become a monster. She became evolution. And I am her messenger. The song I once feared now guides me. It's in every step I take. In the rhythm of the infected marching across the land. The hum in the trees. The breath of the earth. This isn't a journal anymore. It's a warning. To those still hiding in bunkers, clinging to rusted weapons and crumbling memories of the old world, you're not survivors. You're fossils. The Queen does not kill without reason. She replaces. There will be no final battle, no dramatic stand. There will only be acceptance or silence. The next time you hear footsteps outside your door, it won't be a knock. It will be me. And when I speak, you will hear her. Bow or burn. Evan Blackwood, the hive marker. 3 months later, a scout team from Haven 13 found the farmhouse. The journal was there, but Evan was not. In the woods nearby, they found a new hive, massive, pulsing, and guarded by hundreds of infected who never attacked. In the center stood a stone slab. Carved into it, he chose her. And beside it stood the Queen, silent as death. Behind her stood Evan, eyes glowing gold, smiling. The end, and the beginning of the new world. For the last journal of a zombie apocalypse survivor. What if survival was never the goal? What if the infection wasn't the end of humanity, but the beginning of something far more terrifying? You've just witnessed the final moments of Evan Blackwood, the last man to write the truth, and the first to embrace the Queen. But this is only the beginning. Who is Alara really? What secrets lie in the hives that now spread like veins beneath our world? And how many more will choose to bow instead of burn? If you felt the tension, the fear, the mystery, then get ready. Because more is coming. More stories. More horrors that think, remember, and hunt. Subscribe to the Zombie Story Zone for chilling new chapters, twisted apocalyptic tales, and the terrifying truth behind what lurks beyond the fall of civilization. Leave a comment. What would you have done if you were Evan? Would you resist the Queen's call? Or would you kneel before evolution? Don't forget to like, share, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a heartbeat in the dark. Because in this world, the dead don't stay silent. And the survivors, they don't always stay human.
In the shadows of the night, where the moonlight glows, the zombies looking everywhere, that's how the story goes. Grab your gear, hold on tight, it's a wild